The following program includes the opinions of CONK News and those of the call-in participants. It does not reflect the views of our sponsors.
And now we begin with the dance portion of the program.
Oh my God. G's watch too much television. We're just sitting there, we're talking about movies and television here. It's like we're watching we're waiting for the countdown. We have a nice, pretty British lady that counts us down here. So I'm Jim Peters, and he's Z. Go ahead. Tim Conaway's here.
I am here on this momentous occasion.
And joining us from Joplin, Missouri, via Clean Feed is Larry Newman. Hi, Larry.
Hello, how you guys?
Yeah, we're good, man. We're good.
Hola.
Okay, somebody got to stop breathing into the microphone.
Oh, it's me. I thought that would add a little bit of, increase the female audience.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the 5 lesbians in Fresno who listen to this. And you're listening to CONK Weekend. It's our 44th show, I think. We started on March 15th, 2021. And this is for the weekend of it. I think I got this straight, February 11th through 14th. Valentine's Day. It's going to be Valentine's Day, which Hank Reardon is not here today. He's on assignment. And if you listen to our radio show yesterday, like he said, he's not in a bar up in northern Minnesota. He actually is on assignment. He might call in later on, but he's on I won't say where he's at. He's somewhere on the East Coast of the United States.
He's going to come back with evidence, is what I hear.
Yes, right. That's right. He is actually working on something. It's amazing because we don't expect him to work. But that's where we're at here. So, and this is the first time Larry's joined us. So if you never heard our show before, we run down the news of the week. We play what we call the CONK News game, and it works like this, and that is I have a list of topics I throw out to the panel, and the panel talks about it. And at the end, we get little participation trophies that make us all feel special. This week, it's from the Minnesota United, who had their qualifying match for the World Cup. Or actually, it was not the United team. It was the World Cup had their qualifying match in the Allianz Stadium in St. Paul outside. It was 2 degrees below zero. They played Honduras. They won. And these trophies now are frozen Honduras football players in various positions.
I have a mental image of that trophy. The kind of thing that happens to a man after he's been playing in minus 2 degree weather.
You got that?
So it's going to be a lighter trophy than one would expect.
Z figured it out.
It's a special order.
Oh, my God.
Special order trophy. I hope that we finally get around to unpacking that box of Joe Biden trophies that each one comes with its own little pack of doll-sized pens.
Yes, I do too, Tim.
And a crack pipe.
Yeah, a government issued crack pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right, so I'm going to start here. And my first thing, and Hank's giving me crap about this. I don't care. My first thing is COVID. So. The now this is not the CDC. It's from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, which I don't think is the CDC. They put out a study. So this is from the government. They are a member of the National Institutes of Health. They put out a study a few days ago that came to the conclusion that basically the entire COVID pandemic was bullshit.
And you have the statistics to back it up?
I have the statistics here, Z. The statistics to back them up. Here's the statistics, and that is, I'm going to read this through this here. They reported that none of the, all right, they surveyed 1.1 million people during the year 2021. 1.1 million. None of the healthy people under the age of 65 died or ended up in ICU. 35 of them ended up in the hospital. This is out of 700,000 people who were sick. 35 ended up in the hospital. One who was over the age of 65, one person died. So if you go by these statistics, it's the same odds during the course of that year of dying in a house fire. you're 3 times more likely to die in a car accident, and you're way more likely to even die from lightning.
And I think also part of that was the folks that were worst affected, the number of comorbidities that they had.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And let me get down to that. So it was like the people who died who were over the age of 65 had 4 or more comorbidities. And people who had less than 4 out of that 1.1 million people, only 1 person died. This is like crazy shit. We did all this for nothing.
And tell us again what government entity this is?
This is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which, if I'm correct, is not the Center of the Disease Control. They're different.
That's different. Yeah.
Right. Which is it's one of the. It's a sub. It's a sub of the National Institute of Health.
Hey, Larry, are you outdoors or something?
No, my phone went off. I just forgot to turn it in. Sorry.
No, listen, it adds character to the program. It's like geese flying overhead or something. Almost got the shotgun out.
You care about character?
Only if they're real characters.
So, I've been bitching and moaning about this for a year, this whole COVID thing, about the fact this is complete, utter crap. No, it's not. COVID does kill people. I mean, that's true. That's the thing. It's not complete, utter crap. But to have taken it to this level, and the fact that we still have children, they're still arguing about kids today, even though there's a lot of states who are going to drop their mask mandates. They're not dropping them for children in many cases. And we are going to have a bunch of kids in 10 years from now who are going to become adults or teenagers, are going to be so pissed off at us, it's going to be mind-boggling.
Well, Larry, what are you seeing down there? Because Joplin it's a different world from the Twin Cities, and I'm just wondering what your take is.
Well, I've been seeing the same thing. I mean, it's the flu. We've had the flu, and I've had several people who were either nurses or married to nurses. One gentleman came out here to pick up a load of lumber. Had a loader with him. He told me, based on what my wife says, if you run a test swab on that forklift, it'll come back positive. So the tests were messed up.
Yeah.
I agree with those figures 100%.
Yeah. It seemed like when we first heard about this thing, I mean, I think the title of it, the novel coronavirus, was very apt because it was new. And because it was new, people could theorize all they wanted to. And if you theorize to the right group of people, all of a sudden, anything that you were saying, right or wrong, was on all the news networks 24/7. And I think that we suffered from a pandemic of people reacting poorly to information instead of getting a grip before they analyzed and reacted to the information.
See, if I could put a little alliteration to that, you're talking about a pandemic of panic.
Oh, that works for me.
Yeah, and it was a manufactured pandemic. My big issue with the whole thing is, there was a highly contagious virus, and it did have a harsh impact on older people, particularly if they're compromised, which is with most people over 65, you've got something else going on. The body is starting to wear out in places there. But the whole way that it was handled, everything about that is wrong. And if we're going to count on the government in these situations, what's happened is the next one, and there will be more of these. We had some of these viruses come up before the SARS and the MERS and stuff that didn't become as widespread and contagious as they imagined. So it's going to happen again, but nobody is going to trust the government. And even the best effort by the government, even if they've learned from this, and I can't imagine that the people that, we see in Washington learn from anything. But even if they've learned from this and make the best effort, the next one is going to be a total mess.
Touche, Mr. Conaway. I mean, this is my fear. What happens if we end up with another version of Ebola that kills 80 to 100% of the people who get it? And at this point, why would anybody believe the government?
And that's the big tragedy of the whole situation,
yes,
isn't it?
It is.
Know, it's. I mean, here we're not. It's not like we're huge fans of the things that government does and the way that they operate, and we recognize the inherent corruption of various aspects of it, but. At its core, I think is the potential for doing so much good, and I think it just hurts my heart to see that. Yeah, just as you say, we have lost trust in not only government but in the sources of information. It's like, who exactly do you trust, and can you trust yourself? Do you have the ability to go out and collect information the way a government entity would? It's tragic. It really is.
And
Well,
go ahead, Larry. Go ahead.
No, I've said a lot of times I have an affliction, and it's having been a trained investigator for the sheriff's department. I stand back and I look at evidence, and I look at all aspects of this thing, and I look back and okay, this come out in 2020. What did we have in 2020? We had an election. Okay, we're coming out now. They had a big round of it this year. What do we got in 2022? We got another election. Okay, this thing, knowing people that work in the hospitals locally and talking to them, this thing was a manufactured scare to be used for political purposes. Yes, there was a virus. And it made you sick. Yes, that's correct. But it was, I think it was a manufactured epidemic that was able to be used for political purposes. That's my personal opinion. But I just have to stand back and look at all the evidence and look at the whole picture.
Well, Larry, speaking of that, and Z and Tim, you guys weren't here, and so you don't really know this, since it's lost to history at this point. We did the test shows for this show in March and April and May of 2019. No, 2020. I'm sorry, 2020. So way before we started. We ended up started in March of 2021. I won't tell you why we got sidetracked, but we did. And it was so I started paying attention to the figures then. And it was, like you said, at the first, nobody knew what was going on. That was March and April. But by May, we were starting to get an idea. And I was already saying, just based on the statistics in May of 2020, that just like Larry said, it's the flu, except we had vaccines for the flu. That was the only difference. I said, once we get a vaccine for this, it's going to be the flu. And then you go through the statistics of deaths from the flu. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Average deaths from influenza in the United States every year, 40,000 people. The high was 2018. It was 80,000 people. So we have now 900,000 people who supposedly have died of COVID in the United States, but most of them had commingling factors. If you take out 95% of them did, the 5% who died of COVID alone, that's 45,000 people, and you're pretty much in the ballpark. It's the flu. Yeah. Larry's right.
Well, here's what happens when you have a populace that is not taught in school how to parse statistics and how to really look at studies and figure out what it is that they're actually saying. Instead, we get tweets of 200 characters or less that say the sky is falling and, oh my God, watch out, and if you don't wash your hands with lye soap, then that's it, you're going to die. You know? And I'm just so unbelievably tired of that kind of just knee-jerk reaction to everything. It's not just about COVID, it's everything.
Yeah, well, and, you know, who gathers the statistics? Where are they coming from? And, you can make a set of statistics say the same. thing in two different ways. You can prove your case with statistics on one side, and you can use the same statistics to prove your case on the other side. You know, how you mount them, how you put them out to the public, and this part about, you know, how many of these deaths were purely COVID versus how many of them were COVID plus some other underlying factor. That was never really put out. Those little countdown things on the, or stat boxes on the side.
CNN trying to scare the shit out of everybody.
They didn't ever put that up there. So, yeah, statistics, like Larry says, you have to look at real evidence, and you have to you have to examine the evidence. You can't just take what's being handed out.
And all of this takes time, doesn't it, Larry?
It does. It does. I had a sinus infection. I went to the ER. I told them I had the flu. The registered nurse told me, she said, "Sir, how do you know you got the flu?" I said, "Ma'am, I'm 67 years old. I've had the flu before. I know what the flu is." So they tested it, come back positive for COVID. So the registered nurse told me, she said, "It's very interesting." She said, "I guess I shouldn't tell you this, but," she said, "it's very interesting that we have tested all these people here at the hospital, and nobody is testing positive for the flu. Everybody's testing positive for COVID, but nobody's testing positive for the flu during the flu season." What does that tell you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We had an interesting thing here in the CONK News offices. We all shitload of people were sick, and no one actually tested positive for COVID. Turns out we all had the influenza or something. It's like nobody here actually got COVID, and this is the other thing about this whole scare thing, which is absolutely abhorrent. Who gave somebody the idea that just because someone's unvaccinated, they're like pariahs? It's like, that's absurd.
Did you guys hear Sheriff Villanueva from Los Angeles, from Los Angeles County on Fox and Friends yesterday? He said something that did you check that out, Larry? Do you remember the statistics?
I heard it.
Yeah. So the sheriff said, he said, we, out of 1,000 people that were vaccinated and non-vaccinated, the people who were non-vaccinated, 3.4 of them got COVID. The vaccinated people was 3.8. So we're talking 0.4% difference between these two. And this is the point. If people have just been kind of rolling their eyes listening to us for the last few minutes saying, "Oh, these guys.
Well, I think
this is what we're talking.
I think they're wondering, God, he sounds handsome.
Well,
yeah.
You know, the voice does carry the day.
I'm sorry.
No. It's just, that's what I'm talking about when I say that you need time. And Larry couldn't do his job if he didn't invest the amount of time that he needs to get stuff right.
Or if he believed
Correct.
everybody that he questioned was telling him the entire truth instead of what they thought he needed to hear.
Are you talking about when I go to the doctor and say I have the flu, in reality I have venereal disease? Are you talking about that? And I'm 66. I'm only a year younger than Larry. I don't know why Larry didn't think he had venereal disease, but, I would make an assumption, Larry, if I were you, but, I'm not.
Yeah, well, that whole political thing that Larry brought up is like, we need to say what we think people need to hear that benefits us. The whole thing being run by politicians the whole thing being run by the government was a mistake because the government never gets it right. But in a situation like this, it really does kind of fall to the government to at least have some kind of plan. They should have, been reaching out more to the medical community to deal with it, not the bureaucrat scientists, but real scientists and real people in medicine. But, no, this was a big opportunity to take the stage for political reasons at the cost of people's health and safety.
We're going to take a break, everybody. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Canadian truckers. How's that sound? 2 minutes.
All right.
2 minutes, everyone. Stay tuned, please.
Wherever books are sold, pick up Seth Wickersham's It's Better to Be Feared, The New England Patriots Dynasty and the Pursuit of Greatness. This New York Times bestseller and Sports Illustrated nonfiction book of the year is an explosive account of football's greatest dynasty from the ESPN reporter who's been there from the beginning. Bill Simmons calls it the definitive document of the Belichick-Brady dynasty, while Chad Finn of the Boston Globe deems it honest and beautifully written. It's Better to Be Feared by Seth Wickersham. Available now.
Knockoffs, copycats, imitators. They all share one thing in common. They always pale in comparison next to the true original. Just like the stylish and versatile Lexus RX, the crossover that paved the way for others. And it's still the best for one simple reason. Nothing else is as good as the original. Click the banner to discover more. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
And if you go to AncientLifeOil.com and put in the promo code CONK, C-O-N-K, you'll get free shipping. So, Z, were they talking about you there for a second?
You know, I was just thinking to myself, if there was ever proof that a product worked, just listen to the guy doing the commercial.
You know, Hank uses the Ancient Life Oil. He actually does.
He laid some on me.
Yeah.
He gave me some as well.
Yeah.
That made, doesn't hurt. Let's put it that way.
Part 2 of CONK Weekend. Tim Conaway here. Zorro here. Larry Newman from Joplin, Missouri here. I'm Jim Peters. So, these Canadian truckers, man. Now, this, once again, I mean, I'm just abominated by shit that happens in the news.
And that was a great Freudian slip there, by the way.
What was that?
You said Canadian Trumpers.
Did it really?
You did, yeah.
Oh, man. I'm witty and I don't even know it. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Yeah, so 400,000 people get in their trucks. They go to Ottawa. There's no violence whatsoever. None. The only single violence is that some Antifa guy plows his Jeep into a crowd, to try to drum some shit up, you know. And of course, their pussy prime minister decides that, this is an insurrection and this has to be stopped. I just find this just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, there was something also on CONK, a link that the mayor of some town where this caravan had stopped, the people had set up bouncy houses and food tents and that kind of stuff for the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a carnival, and this guy was saying, we didn't think it was fair to make this look like a fun festival when it was this outrageous. And it's like, well, would you rather they were, burning things down? Canada does not have a First Amendment.
No.
Free speech is not guaranteed in Canada.
Well, we're the only country that does, if I'm right. The only single country in the world
I think England has a form of it.
England has a form of it, but it's not like ours.
There are always these little disclaimers.
Yeah, but so these guys are taking a risk by protesting. The right to peaceable assembly and the right to free speech. They don't exist up there, but they're trying to make their point. But of course, the government people are saying it's an insurrection. It's the violent against. So they were going to the government was, GoFundMe was going to take back, well, they hadn't given out all the funds that were raised for the truckers through GoFundMe. GoFundMe was instead going to give them to charities of their choice. They were
Of their choice.
Yeah,
right.
They were forced to give the money back to the people who donated it, but the Canadian government now wants to get the names of everybody who donated to investigate these people because they were donating to an illegal activity.
This is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
I mean, I'm looking at you incredulously because it is incredulous to me. That's wow. I'm aghast.
And the Prime Minister actually called what they were doing unacceptable behavior and unacceptable views. They have unacceptable views compared to who? You?
Yeah,
like
the Castro's illegitimate son.
Yeah, and and Reardon went has gone on about this for months about the fact it's like the guy who shows up at a party in blackface every time. It's like he's talking about people having unacceptable views. It's like Jesus. I mean, it's really disgusting.
Larry, weigh in because I'm about to have a cow here.
Thank you.
I swear to God.
Well, at my advanced age, when I went to the one-room schoolhouses, we learned about history, and
imagine,
and those countries who took away people's opportunity to have free speech, and who exercised different ways of controlling the populace, it never ended good, and that's what scares me to death. Is I'm seeing the government exercising numerous ways, not through official government channels all the time, but through their proxies, Black Lives Matter and Antifa and all of these other proxies, stripping away our rights and taking those away. We may have the First Amendment, but now all social media is controlling what a lot of us have to say.
I need to point something out.
There's a lot of things that scare me to death out here.
Larry, I need to point something out here, and I'm really interested to see what happens with this. And that is, everyone's talked about the Digital Millennia Copyright Act in the United States as Section 230. Section 230, though, only applies to what you would call traditional social networks. It does not apply to GoFundMe because there's money involved. And I'm really curious to see they could be in some deep legal shit for doing this or trying to do it. So,
well, I'm going to ask you the question that I often ask a lot of folks that come on with us, and that is, do you see where we have reached a point of saturation with all the craziness? Do you see that we have gone over the arc and on our way back to some kind of sensibility?
That's for you, Larry.
I know. I don't know that we've crested that arc yet. I think we're right at the precipice, and I'm starting to hear a few things that make me think we are coming back to some sensibilities. My question is, how much power has the government taken up to this point to make that road downhill tougher? I think you're right. Maybe we've crested the hill, but it's going to be a hard road downhill.
I think we'll find out in November.
A lot of bumps in the road to get there.
Do you think we'll find out in November? Will that be an actual bona fide indication of where we really are, or what do you think?
I don't know if it's going to be that to that point. I think there's going to be some indicators in November. It just depends on how much illegal voting goes on across the country, and how, if we can get that stopped. The voting is still up to the states. It's in the hands of each state, and the Secretary of State in each state still controls it. You saw the attempt by the federal government to take that out of the hands of the states and put it in the central hands of the U.S. government, who then can control how people vote nationwide. So I think that the balking at that not happening, they know that they're not there yet. They're not in the position where they can control the populace yet, but they continue to chip away at it. So yes, I think you watch this fall's election, we'll see a good indicator, but I don't think the progressive left has gotten to the point to where they think they are.
Yeah, well, and I think the elections, I mean, that affects the political arena, but what we're seeing with a lot of this, and something that you touched on, the government is using its bully pulpit, so to speak, to try to encourage companies to behave in a certain way, to try to affect the way private business operates, to try to tell businesses what is acceptable speech or information or misinformation, whose voice needs to have a warning put in front of it. And so it's not just the changes in Congress, because even if we get a different group of people in Congress after the midterm elections, it's not going to change the way the federal government works or the way Congress works.
Well, Tim, you're the constitutional scholar here, kind of. I've maintained that even if they pass this Voting Rights Act, it's so clearly unconstitutional, nothing would ever come of it.
Well,
Am I naive?
So many parts of it, but then you have to run that through the courts.
Yeah.
The federal government doesn't have the. It's clear in the Constitution that this does belong to the states. That how these elections are run belongs to the state, and I read that entire big, ugly 378-page document. There's so many things in there that have absolutely nothing to do with elections themselves, and so many things that just skirt on the edge of elections, and like contributions and that sort of thing, and all the stuff that they're trying to impose actually on elections are not up to Congress, but it would have to run through the courts. Or it would, because it comes out of Congress, it could go directly to the Supreme Court, but it would have to go to the court and be challenged by, let's say, state legislatures, state secretaries of state. So it's a big issue, and in the meantime, everything then is up in the air.
And question, Tim, do they have to? Does the court rule on the whole thing, or do they have to rule on parts of it?
No, it would have to be the case would have to be very specific. They would have to challenge specific parts of the law and have the court rule on that part of the law. This law is, this act is so widespread and has so many bizarre things in it that you couldn't have one court ruling on it anyway, because there's so many. It goes in so many different directions.
So the takeaway is that even if the court knocked it down, it would take forever.
Well, yeah, it would have to be piece by piece, taking away parts of the law, challenging parts of the law. One part of the law sets up ethical standards, would set up ethical standards for the Supreme Court. Congress has, the only thing Congress has to say about the Supreme Court is approving the people, the nominees that the president puts forth. They don't have anything to say about ethical standards in the court. There's nothing in the Constitution that gives them that right. And if it isn't in the Constitution, they don't have it. That's the other part of it.
That's a lot of fucking balls.
Oh, well, it's the Democrats. So, we'll just take over all this stuff because we can run it better. And, and also we can run it better and it works for us.
And there's absolutely no evidence they can run it better. They can't run anything better.
No, they haven't. Look at the economy. This is the thing that scares me more than government oppression is just totally wrecking the U.S. economy to the point, we can't build anything, we can't get any supplies. Everything that we do get costs now 30-40% more at least. Lumber prices are going back up again and will soon be about 4 times what they were before all of this nonsense started. So, and that, now you're going to build things, and they're going to cost 4 times as much. And if you can afford that, people are going to be out of work because nobody can afford to buy new homes, so nobody's going to build new homes. I mean, this is getting us close to where we were during the Great Depression, when we had 70% of the workforce was walking, riding the rails, trying to do odd jobs to get a sandwich.
Except the difference is that so many of them are doing it willingly.
Oh yeah,
as opposed to being forced into it. Sorry.
Like, what? No. Go ahead. Like, what do you mean?
I'm talking about people that are opting literally not to work because they can be on the government dole, and that's the difference between the Depression and now. There was no dole.
That's right.
If you were out of work, you were out of work not by choice because there was no other way to make money. Fine, and then Roosevelt came in and started handing out money to people left and right, but. As you were talking, Tim, it has been said many times that the absolute genius, the wisdom of our particular system, of our Constitution, and of the way that it was formed was that the Founding Fathers understood that making things take time was a good thing,
right.
That you don't rush stuff out. Conservatives understand that now. Go to your typical leftist, your typical liberal, your typical Democrat. They want everything yesterday. That is what is so against. If you want to say that something is the American way, that is what makes them against the American way. The idea of patience giving you a result that is going to be long-lasting. So what did Biden do? For how many freaking executive decisions did he do in 2 days? What is it, 27 or something like that?
Yeah,
that's
right.
what I'm talking about. Even Trump, who had his executive decisions, didn't come anywhere close to that.
And the other thing, with the Democrats, it's if you want to know what's in the bill, vote on it. Vote on it first, and then we'll tell you what's in the bill.
Bingo.
That's the stupidest fucking thing ever.
Bingo. And that she has, Pelosi has the nerve to even just literally say it like that. Go ahead, Larry. You've been trying to get word in edgewise.
Well, we're talking about legislation and what would happen if it went to the Supreme Court. The executive orders, for example, the regulators, the people in Washington, D.C. and around the country that work for the government that have so much control, the EPA can walk into your business, shut you down, fine you millions of dollars. The government controls are so spiderwebbed so much that the government already controls us. And they can shut you down. Okay? So, yes, the laws are passed. We focus on the laws that we see and we hear talked about, and they're going to pass these. Meanwhile, the government regulators that are in place are performing the government control that nobody sees. It's in the background. So that's the thing that controls a lot of the costs, like lumber, the EPA, all the different federal agencies that control all of the lumber, the harvesting, and all of that. That's the scary part. That's what's in the background that we don't get to talk about or hear anything about, and we don't think about it because we're busy talking about this bill that they're trying to get through. And what's going on now with Nancy Pelosi coming out now saying that no government workers should be able to invest in the stock market. But there is something going on when a politician comes out and says, no, we shouldn't be able to invest in the stock market. You better be scared.
Oh,
Anytime the government tries to do anything, you better be scared.
Larry, our associate Hank Reardon, he has a theory about that. He thinks that the reason she's come out about this now is because her son is going to be under investigation for this, and she's trying to run interference for him. Matter of fact, Hank's theory,
Sure.
and I think it's a really good one, he says that's the reason she's even decided to run for another term, so that she can be in Congress and derail whatever investigation they do of him. Otherwise, she'd be out. And I think he might be right. I don't see any other reason. It's like the whole. It's
now we're getting to something that I deal with on a daily basis in the crime situation. It used to be people were accountable. It used to be people were responsible. It used to be people had respect. And how many people have you heard of in years gone by that would not take a government handout because that wasn't right? Okay, we're responsible to take care of ourselves, and this is the greatest country in the world. The opportunities are out there for every single person to make a good living and to take care of themselves. But our society has a cancer of entitlement, and cancer is usually terminal.
Yeah,
when you take away people's opportunity to make a living for themselves, or their willingness to make a living for themselves because, hey, the government will take care of me, where are we headed?
We talk about this a lot here, Larry. You don't know this probably, but both Zorro and I are first-generation Americans. Both our families came over here our parents came over here on the boat. So we talk about this a lot.
And I got to tell you something that'll just warm your heart. I grew up in New York in public housing in the projects, and and the way that works, I don't know if people know outside of that know how it works. They basically take whatever a quarter of your income is. It's not a set price. It's whatever a quarter of what you make, and that's what decides the rent. But my mother and my father just basically swore that they would never go on welfare, even though we were living in subsidized housing. That at least there was a fairness to it because of how you had to pay. But they said, we are not going to depend on the government. These are two Puerto Ricans that came over, after some tough times in PR, man.
That's the reason I brought this up, Z.
Yeah.
It's saying my father would never even occurred to him.
Right.
He would never have done it in a million years. I know that.
Nope.
And you're right, Larry, there's too much entitlement or a feeling of entitlement now, and we've passed around a theory here is there's literally too much money in the country. I mean, it's like the country's dripping with money everywhere. So people think you got one or two generations under your belt where you've been relatively affluent, and all of a sudden you have 18-year-old kids who think that's the way it should be. The government should just give me money. So. It's everything's whacked.
Entitlement shows itself. And I'm sorry, Larry. Please, you haven't gotten a chance to speak. Please, you do. Please.
No, I'm just saying. In 1964 and in 1965, when we passed the welfare program, when they passed it, they verbally said, they came out and said, President Johnson said, this will destroy the family unit welfare. They knew it at the time they passed it. This is designed to destroy the family unit, to put them on the government dole so that the government could control them. They knew it when they started it. We're in fourth and fifth generation now of these people who think that the government owes them everything. They're entitled. They're entitled to what you have. They're entitled to what I have. If they want what I have or what you have, they're going to come take it because they're entitled. How much of that did we see last year in the rioting and the looting? It is a cancer of entitlement, and it's getting worse instead of better. You asked me about the curve a while ago. I don't know that situation's getting any better.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was saying, well, now we're not talking about a curve that started 10 years ago or 20 years ago. This started back in the 1950s. It started in the 1950s with the way that school was changed, John Dewey and that whole thing in the progressive education business. All of that was where things in America very slowly, very insidiously, started to change. And God forbid you would point that out. Oh, you're just a McCarthyite. You see conspiracies in every corner and all that stuff. And that is what I mentioned last week. Alinsky's fifth rule is when the opposition starts to grow strong, you mock. You make them look stupid. And that's what they've been doing ever since then.
Well, I don't know. You guys are intellectuals, and I'm just a little peon sitting here, but I do know from experience, you're absolutely right. You want to destroy liberals, mock them. That's their kryptonite. They can't stand it.
Yay, Greg Gutfeld.
Really. Yes, Larry?
Yeah, one of the most recent examples that we have is 1930s Germany. Okay? We take away the health care, we take away the guns, we send people out to riot and to break up gatherings. We break up all kinds of stuff. We create mobs that go in and they destroy good community programs for the benefit of the person who wants to take over the country.
And Larry, look how humorless they were. Not a lot of comedy in Nazi Germany.
Right. Yeah, and they took over the kids. Instead of taking your kids and the government raising them over here, now we're going through the schools and we are brainwashing these kids and teaching them what we want to teach them to think that communism is good. We call it socialism, democratic socialism. It's the same thing. But we teach them that it's good. So we're brainwashing the kids through the school instead of taking the kids away from parents and raising them out here on their own.
Forgive me, guys, but the pressure to do this seems to be relentless. They will not. It seems like they will not let up.
That's what Jennifer said last week.
Yeah,
that's right.
Everywhere and in every way. And Larry brought up something. I know Jim wants to go to a commercial, but Larry,
you can read my mind.
Yeah, I sit over there sometimes. Larry Larry brought up this entitlement, and if they don't get what they want, they'll come and take it. And in Minneapolis, one of the council members is a complete nutbag, and said that these people, when they're like jacking your car or robbing, stealing stuff from your store, that it isn't really a crime because these people have been denied assets, and that this is the way they can get the assets that they've been denied. So I mean that
they
is
take yours.
Yeah, that is the full. I mean that's entitlement all the way beyond belief. But this is an elected city official who's saying this kind of stuff.
And they're all over the place.
He's probably got armed guards and lives in a house with a big fence around it.
Well, no, this is a man in a dress who calls himself by some woman's name. So, I mean, this is nuttier than that. But this was, if she would dress in just regular men's clothes, I'd hire her as a bouncer. So,
that's one for you to Google, Larry. Minneapolis City Council. Check it out sometime. You won't believe it.
Yeah, I just want to point out, guys, my pronouns are fuck and you. And with that, we are gonna take a commercial break because Tim Conaway can read my mind. We'll be back in 2 minutes, everybody. Stay tuned.
You'll save money by using our products and services. Have you heard that undocumented claim about 1,000 times? Well, if you manage a construction company doing business with the government, you will save time and money using the automated EMARS compliant client system. Users report an 80% savings in time and money. Compliant Client keeps your employee checks in compliance with the Davis-Bacon Act and its 30 compliance issues. Friday payroll takes about 3 minutes, and subcontractors' payrolls are also completed automatically without need for review by the DOL. Web-based and encrypted, there is no software to install. All 56,000 plus clients of EMARS enjoy certified checks that never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-5 595-0466.
God, I just want to beat the crap out of somebody.
Well, you can do that with me, see, because I'm sitting there, I'm trying to have a conversation with you guys kind of quietly, and then I realize, well, why didn't I pull the damn pots down? It's like, why am I so stupid? It's like, shit, I've been doing this for like 40 goddamn years. I don't know. Part 3 of CONK Weekend. We got Larry Newman from Joplin, Missouri on the clean feed. We got Tim Conaway sitting across from me on the desk, looking very attractive, and then Zorro's always he's always bringing the sex appeal, man. It's like it's hard to be here. It just is.
Thwip.
Okay, all right. Now, so Larry, I don't know if you're interested in this, but I'm going to move on to this topic. But please comment even if you're not interested. And I want to talk about CNN. I want to talk about the mainstream media. So, okay, we know what happened this last week. Jeff Zucker lost his job. Now, everyone in the media has basically agreed with me that he did not actually quit. He didn't have nothing to do with this supposed affair he had, which apparently has been going on for years and years and years, that the new owners of CNN, even though they technically aren't new owners because they haven't signed the papers yet, told Jeff, you either arrange some way to get out of this or we're going to fire your ass. That's basically what happened. Yeah. But I'm watching Gutfeld last night, and Gutfeld has a really interesting take on this. So, and Hank and I were talking about this on the radio show yesterday. So everyone, they're basically doing a wake at CNN. As a matter of fact, Jake Tapper apparently at his house actually did a Shiva. No, he called it that. He actually called it. And now those of you who are not of the Jewish persuasion, that's basically a wake for a dead person. But of course, Jeff Zucker is not dead. But he actually called it that.
Hilarious.
So Gutfeld's theory is that, and this is really fascinating. He says, well, the reason all these people are really basically mourning his passing is because they're all the same. They're the ideologues he brought in. When Zucker got to a point where he said, let's not even pay attention to the ratings. We're gonna make a different, quote unquote, difference in America, and of course the ratings are now beyond shit. I mean, nobody watches CNN, nobody, and the new owner said, well, no, this is not acceptable. We want to make some money, so you're gone. And Gutfeld, no, actually it wasn't Gutfeld, it was Bill O'Reilly. I was watching Bill O'Reilly last night. He said, and he's probably right, he said, you just wait, in 6 months, half of the people on the air at CNN are going to be gone from there.
I believe that. More. Yeah. I believe that.
Because he hired ideologues, people thought the same way he did.
You see, this is why I ask, every time we have a guest, this is why I always ask about this point of saturation, because I keep seeing these signs of things happening. I mean, let's just go back 25 years to what CNN was. Okay, we'd go to the airports and we'd see, what was going on, and it was just sort of like, oh, that's where we would get our news, etc.
The trusted name of news,
and
right?
Now it is basically no better than MSNBC. And MSNBC is going to lose Joy Reid. I'm telling you, there is something that is more than percolating. I think we've got a bunch of, in my little mental map of the United States, I can see these little pots just boiling and boiling and boiling. People are angry.
Yes.
There is righteous indignation. People who had never, ever considered voting Republican are going to pull the lever for Republicans. And the numbers have to be so massive that it will be impossible for them to cheat, number one, and that we will be able to supersede whatever damage the news tries to do. But my theory is that they're going to let the congressional elections pass. They're not gonna do a lot of commentary on the congressional elections because they're saving it up for 2024. And so, more than likely, I hope so. I'm knocking wood right now, but more than likely the Republicans will take back control of the Senate and Congress, and will have a stasis that everybody will be happy with, because we'll have the gridlock that we currently need in order to stop the crap from happening in Washington right now. So they're saving it up, and it's at that point, that's where the push has to be. It has to be massive, massive.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Larry.
Go ahead, Larry.
The comments about CNN. I think people have gotten very tired of opinions.
You mean like we do here some days a week?
News channel, yeah, like we're doing here. Yeah, I don't think when they go to a news channel, CNN, when they go to a news channel, they want to hear the news. They don't want to hear people's opinions, and especially people's opinions who are so far out of space that it's obvious you're not going to believe them.
Yeah,
so that's what has happened to CNN. People got tired of hearing opinions, and that's all.
You mean you don't like Jim Acosta, Larry?
Who?
Larry's not one of the 5 people in America who watches CNN.
And Larry, you're in a part of the country that people don't think about, don't talk about. They talk about, the East Coast. They talk about the West Coast. They might talk about Dallas or Atlanta or something like that. But, you're in a part of the South where I would think that, who people are watching out there. And I don't think CNN probably was ever a very popular choice in that area. Or am I just stereotyping?
No, it wasn't. We're in what people call the flyover part of the country. All of the politicians and all of the celebrities fly over us when they go back and forth to the East, West Coast, to the South. So that everybody feels like that we're just lost out here in the flyover country. And it's, Missouri is always, we're the show me state. You have to show me. Don't tell me. Don't talk about it. You have to show me. And whether that's unique to Missouri or the central part of the United States, I don't know. But we want to see the evidence. We want to see the truth. And when the left-wing fanatics started jumping in on MSNBC and CNN, that people weren't going to stand for it. No, we know that's not right. When you say something outlandish that's obviously a lie and you're standing up for it as the truth, I've got no confidence in you. I'm not going to watch you anymore. That's I think what happened. It finally hit the coast.
You mean like an idea like, let's defund the police department? It's like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, we've talked about this for a year here on these programs. It's like the sky is green and up and down is down and down is up. It's like some of these ideas are so anti-common sense, they're mind-boggling, and yet people are buying them.
Yeah, well, and the other part of the problem for me is, the press isn't supposed to take sides. They're supposed to present this stuff. Now, if it's an opinion talk show and people want to do opinions, instead of taking sides in the government, they should be expressing opinions about what the government's doing right, if it is, or what the government's doing wrong. But, the job of the press is to be the eyes and ears for the public about what's going on in government. And
what was it Walter Cronkite used to say? And that's the way it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's here. We're going to present it for you. We're going to show you what it is. We're not going to tell you what it is, like you were saying. We're going to give you the insight into it that you can't get from your home, your city, whatever. And they pretty much all stopped doing that. It's all about which side of the aisle they're on, rather than just taking a hard look at government in itself. I don't take the sides of Republicans or Democrats. I take the sides of the people who are trying to do the right thing in government, and they could be, of either of the parties. Unfortunately, there aren't enough other parties representing other people's ideas in there. But and the bureaucracy, that's what you were talking about earlier. We're not getting stories about how these bureaucratic agencies are making their presence felt and stuff. A lot of people know the IRS will come down on you with audits and stuff if you don't go along, but OSHA, the EPA, there's all kind of ways that they can put pressure, legal and financial pressure, on companies to bend to the rules.
It's weaponized regulation.
Yeah, and that's what we're
exactly.
Yeah, and we're not getting that coverage from the press.
And also, it should be pointed out here, those of you who are listening for the first time, and Larry, you might not know this, of all of us here, Mr. Conaway is actually the grand poobah journalist here. He's edited a zillion things, had an illustrious career. But you pointed out Cronkite. The interesting thing about Cronkite personally is that he was basically a communist. He was about as left wing as you could get, but you could not. No one ever got that impression listening to his newscasts. You never figured that out.
Yeah, you would think that he was the conservative old grandpa.
Yeah, you would. He wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't, and he only did one single editorial his entire career, and that was about getting out of Vietnam. So, although
what people don't understand is that the public has an instinct, and they know what the truth is. They can see it. They can feel it. They instinctively know what the truth is.
That's why the
and
COVID.
When you continually lie to them, they're tired of it.
Yeah, that's why the COVID thing has been such a slap in the face, because people, when it first started out, they kind of understood what it was, and then they got told that it wasn't. And I don't fault Trump, because Trump went and sought the advice of people who were regarded as experts.
Yes.
And everybody said, "Oh, you got to talk to Fauci. You got to talk to Fauci." Okay, fine.
Right.
So I'll run the stuff, according to what he had. I mean, he had a, from what I understand, a decent record in the past. So I don't fault Trump for going to him for shit. I was convinced, at first listening to him, but then after a while, it just starts to unravel. So, yeah, we have a big truth deficit going on in this country, and it's going to take a long time to build it back.
And getting back to the whole CNN thing, and even our role.
Were we talking about CNN? Oh,
No.
okay.
No, I want to talk about us.
Oh,
I want to
okay.
talk us. And especially like this whole thing with Joe Rogan and shit. Mm-hmm. John Nolte from Breitbart said this. I brought this up on a previous show, but I'm going to bring it up again about the fact that they used to call us the alternative media. We're not the alternative media anymore. We're the new media, and they're not the mainstream media. They're the old media. I mean, the outlets like us, and there's a lot of them. We are collectively providing truth to the public that the public is starting to realize, which is the reason that so many people are bolting away from all these legacy media corporations and their products.
Right, yeah. CONK News, CONK.com, CONK.com, you come on there and you can find all of the top news stories as they appear without, we don't monkey around with the headlines or anything else. The top news stories about things going on in the U.S., things going on in the world, video coverage of news events, business and technology, and it's all from a conservative standpoint that you're not getting from most of the mainstream media. And I would even say that Fox News is, they're in that battle against CNN. They're not battling for people's attention. They're battling to be the non-CNN. But there are more than 300 conservative news outlets that, and many of them people might not be aware of, that are represented on CONK. And this is where you can go. You don't need to tune in CNN. You can go to CONK, find any news story you want. If you like the source, there are ways to use that source. So, so this is the new way to get news and to get it unfiltered and to get, the whole story and not a soundbite or not a little, 2 minutes of some talking head's opinion. You can get, there's some really good writing on these sites and some really good videos being done by real journalists.
And there's a range of conservative viewpoints, too. You got the Gateway Pundit, which is basically rah, everything Republican, and then you got the guys, I call them the intellectual conservatives, like the National Review, or sometimes I think, you guys are thinking too much, or it's like, I don't know, it's like they're trying to parse everything. But you get all that stuff together, and of course we're talking up our own product, and we have a right to be because we're very proud of it. That said, we do all the preparation for all of these podcasts and radio shows on our own website. There's no reason to do it anywhere else. There just isn't. Everything's there. So sorry, Larry, you just had to listen to a giant commercial, but that's part of the deal.
I'm humbled and proud to be here,
and we're proud. We're happy to have you. Very happy. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and a representative from law enforcement. That's really good because of all the really stupid things that are happening in that arena. It's really good to have somebody who's done that, and thank you for the work that you've done in that field. Because
thank you.
I know that it's tough. We're honored to have you with us.
There's a warrant out for Z's arrest right now. That's because...
That's why I'm wearing the thin blue line badge, dude. I'm just going to flash this baby. They'll know I'm okay.
But I think it has to, it's a warrant has to do with this warrant of love for Valentine's Day.
Right. I am a villain of love.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that what I do now as a bail bondsman is part of the criminal justice system. We are the only accountable pretrial release that there is. We're the only ones that can go out and chase these people down and get them back in if they don't show up for court when they're supposed to. That's my job. I make sure that they show up for court so the victim gets closure. A lot of people think that, well, I'm a bail bondsman, so now I'm opposite of the criminal justice system. We're opposite of law enforcement, and I'm really not. We work hand in hand with law enforcement on a daily basis.
No,
the guy I took into custody yesterday didn't like it, but that's the way it is.
Now, see, okay, I love that. That only a Southerner could say something like that and just like be so cool about it. That guy I took in, hey, he didn't like it, but I brought him in. It's like I'm betting you went through some crap that the rest of us would kind of be going, I ain't going near that. Let's call up Larry.
I wish I'd have wrote everything down over the last 15 years and wrote a book. You wouldn't believe it, but anyway.
There's time.
There's time. It's accountability. And that's what we're talking about on all of this stuff. The government needs to be accountable.
Absolutely.
And it's not.
Yeah. They avoid it in every way, and they set it up. I mean, unfortunately, I've been spending a lot of time reading this legislation, these bills that people want to put up, and it's just ridiculous. The self-protection that they build into it, and the parties make sure that their interests are protected first and foremost in just about everything that they do.
My single favorite example of what you just said is when any of us makes a mistake on their taxes. We get the letter that says you owe us $300 in back taxes didn't pay, and along with that is going to be a $95 fine. Okay, fine. I screwed up, all that. Now, what happens when the government screws up and it come to find out that they owed us a lot of money? Do we get to collect a fine?
No. We don't.
We don't get to fire the clerk that made the mistake, and, or discipline them, and that's the biggest thing to me that has to change in government isn't which party is in control of the House or the Congress, but who is going to get rid of 40% of the federal agencies and the federal bureaucrats and by doing so save a lot of money, and it won't. Nobody in America will notice the difference, other than for the better.
And Larry,
no,
go ahead.
Who's responsible for the accounting of all of this money that the government spends? We're spending $30 million on lip balm and alcohol wipes. $30 million. Who's does the accounting on that? Where does that money go?
That would be Uncle Bocce.
All of that doesn't go. It's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the other thing. I was thinking yesterday about some of these, these economic development areas or economic opportunity areas, the low-income areas where the government is going to put money into building up business there, that kind of thing. And they never do that through accredited banks that already existed. They set up some economic development agency, and suddenly you've got people collecting salaries, and the money is all passing through their hands and going to stuff. And it's like, rarely has this ever happened where you don't see that story a couple of years into the program of executive director. This guy's name is being investigated.
That's happening right now.
Oh, yeah.
With this restaurant that Ilhan Omar has something to do with. It's the exact same thing is happening right now.
All these kind of things that,
Why is she involved in everything?
Yeah. She's
Ilhan Omar,
nice person.
We'll be talking to her someday. But yeah, it's so nobody holds the government accountable for that kind of stuff. The guy who gets caught, chiseling the money, raiding the till, gets something, but nobody ever goes back to the government and says, who set it up this way? This was stupid, and you're fired.
Yeah. Dear Mr. Conaway, we apologize for our error.
Tim and Jim, do you remember about 17, 18 years ago, the city of Minneapolis, the city managed to lose $500 million. It was $500 million that just disappeared. They could not account for it. How in the hell? I would have trouble losing $500 million. I mean, I'd look under the couch first place. But, it was. I had to read the story over and over to believe what I was seeing.
A lot of trips to White Castle.
Holy crap! Yeah.
No, actually, I don't remember this. But holy shit!
I'll see if I can. I'll Google it and see if I can find that story. This is about 17 years ago. Larry,
weren't we talking about GoFundMe?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what we're dealing with is you've got the bail projects who got all the writers out of jail. In California, they're now asking for an accounting on that, and there's $60 million that's gone.
Are you talking about the BLM thing?
No, this is the bail.
Yeah.
The free bail.
The bail project.
It's the same amount, though, I guess, right?
California.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
They won't account for it. $60 million is gone. All right, where'd it go?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you have supposedly poor people from Honduras and Guatemala trekking all the way across the desert in Mexico to come here, and they've got new clothes and new cell phones and money to pay the coyotes, and now we're working with the coyotes. Follow the money, guys. What's the old saying? Follow the money.
Right. I never understood how these people that were so poor and downtrodden had $10,000 to $12,000 to pay the freaking coyotes. Wait a minute. What are we misplacing our funds?
Exactly.
Our priorities somehow?
And the last I heard, we've got 40 different countries, citizens from 40 different countries coming across the southern border, paying the coyotes.
Yeah.
And now, what I hear last week, the coyotes are now working with the Border Patrol.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I also heard that they're now working on the northern border, too. They're coming through Canada.
You got to keep those damn Canadians out.
Follow the money.
Yeah. And that, those 40 different countries include a lot of countries in the Middle East where we don't want one person coming in from those sneaking into the country.
Right.
And if you've got $10,000 to $12,000, there is a correct way to come into the country as an immigrant.
Exactly.
And to,
what does it cost to take an airplane ride from the Middle East to Mexico?
Several
Or
thousand
to
bucks.
take a boat over
Yeah.
to Mexico and
Yeah.
then pay the coyotes to get in.
Yeah.
right.
These are not poor people.
No. And, if they legitimately want to be here, there is a way that they can do that. And that $12,000, you can make it work. Many people have done that, and
Including Z's parents.
become Americans. But yeah, it's really a suspicious situation, and again being poorly handled. And I'm not going to blame the Border Patrol agents. I'm not going to
Oh,
blame
man.
them. It's
That's the toughest job in the world right now.
yeah, and these guys, they're getting their orders from somebody in Washington. Ultimately,
That's correct.
yeah, who's in charge there? Who's setting the tone?
Yeah.
And
Follow the money.
yeah.
Gentlemen, we're going to take one more commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Stay tuned, please.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
I'll go to a mouth full of peanuts.
The kicker. It's the kicker. It's the end. This is the end. So, Larry, you're a first timer here. So the kicker, we talk about more humor stuff that's in the news, just to wrap this whole thing up. So here, I got some headlines here. This is from the Babylon Bee. Biden administration begins grueling month-long process of abandoning Americans in Ukraine. I know that I really like that.
It takes talent for that.
Yeah, it does. It does. A lot of talent.
Got to get their brightest
That's right.
and best.
That's right. Okay, here's another one. CDC director now says to just do whatever Texas did 12 months ago. And this, gentleman, this is a real headline, and this is not from CONK News. This is from the Daily Star. And actually, we're thinking about adding the Daily Star to the CONK News lineup, which is the reason I was there. But this is a real headline, and it is: Zoo hires Marvin Gaye impersonator to encourage monkeys to get it on in mating season. And they really did.
Barry White. No,
like,
Barry White. Are you kidding me? You want the monkeys to get it on? You get some Barry White going.
And
Let's
believe
get
it.
it on.
Are we talking about live porn?
No, we're just talking about a guy in a really like 1970s tuxedo.
Oh.
So, and that isn't Z. No, he dresses well. He dresses well.
Yeah, but I choose my venues very carefully.
Like they say, sexual healing, it's good for me.
Thank you for wrapping this up, Mr. Conaway.
Always does.
Hey, we'd like to thank Larry Newman. Thank you very much, Larry. I hope you join us again,
You're
Larry.
welcome.
This was a lot of fun.
Anytime.
We enjoyed having you. And Z Zorro
Thank
here from the Z,
Always a pleasure.
and Tim Conaway.
Keep it up.
And our friend Hank Reardon, who's on assignment somewhere. God bless you, Hank. Whatever. And I've always wanted to come up with a tagline to end these shows. I've come up with it, and that is "Good night, Tim Berners-Lee, wherever you are." Do you guys know who Tim Berners-Lee is? He's the guy who invented the World Wide Web.
Oh, well, there you go. I thought it was Al Gore, but fine.
No, it wasn't. It was not Al Gore. No, that's a rumor. So, folks, we'd like to thank you for listening. We'll be back on Monday at Blog Talk Radio at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern with the CONK Happy Hour. And we hope you have a good weekend. And check out our website, conk.com, CONK.com. We'll see you. Thanks.